Record button's gone or on or whatever. Whatever.
It's a different place. There it is.
It's down on the bottom right. Stupid. Cancel. Close. Open. Mike Stine. You don't care, Mike.
No, but I was trying to act like I did because really, whatever. That's your problem, buddy.
Yeah. Oh. Good times in the neighborhood. I just want to make sure I wasn't getting any feedback anywhere. No feedback.
No feedback.
No.
None. Ever.
Ever. Are you ready, Mike?
Yes, I am.
All right. Let's go ahead and cut this turkey.
Let's do it.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, the word of the week this week is flare. Also, proper balance movement, chapter 2. What did balance mean to Tony Gonzalez in the 1980s and how Mike has taken it to balance today? Also, a case study of Sammy, the horse, a coffin bone infection, and use of the spider plate shoe. All this and much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How you doing today?
Doing good. Is that coffee kicking in yet?
It's kicked.
Your eyes are open now.
Yes, yes.
So I've got some news for you.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this or not. My wife is in New York. She's been in New York for the past 5 days.
Okay.
She was celebrating her grandmother passed away during COVID. So now, because being in New York was really like locked down as far as people coming in and out. Now they're doing the celebration of life for her grandmother passed away. I think she passed away at like 96 years old. And Father's Day was this past weekend. So she went up to see her Uncle Kenny and, her dad's brother and all that stuff. And, her dad passed away and all that stuff. And it was just one big family gathering. Now, because of what we have going on here on the property, I had to stay. I wish I could have gone. I wish I could have been up there, but I've got my dad here who, I don't want to say I'm afraid to leave him by himself, but I'm afraid to leave him by himself. We've got a 13-year-old bulldog that can't get up and down stairs. So if my dad can't get up down the stairs, I don't think my dog can get up down the stairs with my dad.
Right.
And we've got chickens, we have horses and all the stuff here on the property. One thing that I'm battling right now, since Amy's been away, I've become a full-time hunter.
Okay.
And when I say full-time hunter, there is a fox. I don't know. I've never seen the fox. My dad, again, back to him being left by himself. My dad said he saw a fox on the property, and it got a couple chickens. So all weekend long, I've been doing this. You see what that is? I'll show it to the camera here in just one second.
Yeah. It's a live trap.
But I've got a camera on the live trap on the property.
Right.
So, and don't forget, for every podcast we have a matching video. You can see me here in the studio holding my camera up, which is a live camera feed of the bear trap or whatever I've got there in the property. And I throw a whole bunch of stuff in there. So all night long, I'll get like these little notifications in the middle of the night on my phone. There's movement by the camera. Oh, I think I got it. And I look, there's a frog out there. And then
you could get a frog.
Yeah. And then I get another notification. Boom. Oh, did I get the fox? And I look out there, and there's because of the night vision camera, if a moth goes by the camera lens, it looks like a white streak, and it signifies as a movement in front of the camera. So all night long for the last 5 nights, it's like every hour or two, I'll wake up, oh, notification, I got it. A notification, I got it. Nothing. Didn't catch anything. And I'm using raw meat, which you're supposed to do with a fox. So
yeah.
So, have you ever had any nuisance animals on your property that you've had to take care of, or?
There's plenty of animals that thought I was the nuisance, But
well, you got 2 pretty good sized dogs on your property. Those will chase away anything.
If they're not scared of it.
Right. So in the process of me being here, of course, I take care of the horses and do all the horse stuff and feed the horses and throw the hay. And it's amazing how these horses, as soon as you come walking down the drive path to the barn, they're walking right there with you. They know exactly what time feeding time is.
Food time.
Now,
well, you kind of know when it's feeding time, correct?
Yes, I do.
There you go. I do too.
Now, speaking of feed time, in my off time, we have a garden here on the property. I have a whole bunch of vegetables and stuff. Mike, do you like pickles?
Yes.
Here, this is a batch of my own pickles.
Your own pickles.
Oh, hold on, I got napkins here for you. Open them up. I want you to try them.
Okay.
Now, be careful because that thing is full. Now, these are my version of a garlic dill. Can you open it? And those are yours. If you like them, take them home with you. Just bring the jar back. If you don't like them, dump them out and I'll wash them.
At least act like it.
Yeah, at least act like it. Get your little grubby mitts in there, Mike.
I'm trying to. They're slimy little buggers.
You're making a mess.
I'll taste my fingers.
No, you got dill and stuff all over your fingers. Here, let me get it out for you, Mike.
Almost got one. You said to.
All right.
That's your pickle?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Jalapenos.
No, that's not a jalapeno. Is it? No, that is a jalapeno. Don't eat that, guy. Here, there's a napkin for you.
Okay.
Is that another jalapeno? Yeah, that's another jalapeno.
That's another jalapeno.
Give me that. That's just for seasoning. Do you like the hot pickles?
Apparently. And there's a pickle.
All right, there's a pickle. Now hold it up the camera, nice and. I'm gonna switch the camera here. Let's switch to this camera here. There you go. There's Mike making a mess.
There's a Travis pickle with jalapenos. Good gosh, you made a mess over here.
That's what I said. You stuck your hand down there like you were noodling.
Well, I was noodling. They were all down in there except for the jalapenos.
All right, try that. Tell me how you think. And he's taking 2 bites now. No? My dad always tells the story of Andy Griffith and where Aunt B made pickles and everyone said they tasted like kerosene. And they were like, no, Aunt B, these are great pickles. And kind of like,
Travis.
What?
Travis, these are great pickles.
Are they any good or no?
Oh, they're wonderful.
No, let me see. I got to see. Hold on. I know this is it's a horse show and we're talking about pickles here. So let me see. Here I go. Got a little bite to him.
That's okay. My grandmother used to make these cookies when we were kids that she was extremely proud of, and they were extremely hard. So we used to get a bunch of them. We'd throw them for the dogs to chase. Oh, how are those cookies? They're wonderful. A broken tooth.
Hey, those pickles aren't bad. Well, Mike,
they're actually pretty good.
Okay, so if you want that, you can take it home with you, and I can put the jalapenos back in there if you're in
the jalapenos would be good in there.
Okay, I'll put those back in. So there you go, Mike. Those are the pickles. That's what I've been doing since my mom, since my wife's been away.
Gave me a thing of pickled jalapenos.
No, I forgot I put those in there. That was my special blend. I was like, ooh, I'm going to make these for Mike Stine, and I, in the middle of the night trying to cut things and watch my chicken camera and all that. I guess. Okay. There you go. All right, guys, big show to get into. Lots to talk about while Mike chugs down this bottle of water because those pickles are probably hot.
And the pickle juice.
Yeah. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
You'll learn not to ever give me anything like that again now, won't you?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get you all cleaned up over there. Did you like them or no?
Yeah.
I'll put these back in there.
Yeah, and I would leave the jalapenos in there, actually. Okay, I will take them.
Yeah, take them.
After a while, I might eat the jalapenos, too.
They're good. You can have the jalapenos.
Mm-hmm. I thought that's what you gave me was a thing of a whole jar of pickled jalapenos.
Would you rather have a pickled jar of jalapenos or would you rather have a pickled jar of pickles?
Probably a pickles. A little jalapeno I can do, but the whole thing, I don't know.
No. I do the pickled green beans. You ever done those?
No.
You have to be careful because what you have to do is actually heat the water up and you have to boil the green beans in them. and then you blanch them. So basically you're cooking the green beans and then you put them in there and then you put your brine on top of them.
Okay.
Cooking lessons here.
I've done pickled okra.
Yeah, my dad likes pickled okra, but I don't know.
It's an acquired
I do not like okra. All right, here we go.
Yes.
Oh, let me switch back the camera. This camera. Ooh, that took a lot out of me, Mike.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Like I said, don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video over on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to Mike Stine over on YouTube. And don't forget, Mike has shut down his personal Facebook page and is now concentrating on the actual podcast Facebook page, which is Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. And he's got it to where he maxed out his personal account up to 5,000 people, and so many people were asking to be part of the Facebook page. So Mike just started another Facebook page in the business sense, which allows him to have more and more people who enjoy the show. And over to my far right side, enjoying his very own show over there, is Mike Stine.
That's right, and pickles.
And my pickles. Now, for whatever reason during the show, if you hear me go, "Ooh, I gotta go," it's because I'm sitting here on Chicken Watch down here. I've got the camera right here on the.
So you're multitasking.
I am multitasking. I got the camera right here, and I'm watching to see if that fox, which I haven't seen yet. Oh, there's only one person on the property that's seen the fox, and that's my dad. So nobody else has seen it. So who knows what's out there?
It wouldn't surprise me if you had one visiting.
So today I'm talking terminology, and today we're going to talk terminology. This week's word is flare. Now, the definition of flare is the outward distortion of the hoof, which may occur on any portion of the hoof wall. So, Mike, tell us what you know and what you found out about our word of the week is flare.
Oh, that's a different flare than what I was thinking.
What kind of flare are you talking about?
I thought, when you have your special own style, that was flare.
Well, like when you go to Chili's restaurant and you have all those stupid buttons all over their suspenders and stuff.
Yeah, no.
You need me to switch cameras?
We can use the camera.
All right. You know what I forgot to do? I got ahead of my pickles here. So, that'll be good right there. So there you go.
Okay. At any point on the hoof wall, the hoof wall from the coronary band should run good, clean lines to the ground. And when you get a flare is when it distorts and it bows out. As Jack Miller used to say, it's a banana. It's the shape of a banana. But there's more to a flare than just the flare. Some of it's driven by bone column alignment. If you just dress it off, you're constantly chasing them. There's also diagonal pressure in the hoof. If you got to pull where it's pulling out somewhere, it can be caused much from a push from a diagonal in the hoof. And then you start looking on up the horse and start answering the question why.
So my question is, why would a horse have a flared hoof? I would, in my opinion, I would
pigeon toe, a movement pattern, a rocking action in the movement.
It's not a horse being too fat and the feet being too soft.
That could have something to do with it. Yes.
Does that make visual sense to you? Big fat horse on
squashed down, spread out, right?
Yep, correct.
That works.
My feet are flared.
Yes. Yes. I'm not touching that one. But it's change of angulation down the hoof wall.
Now, is there a proper degree? Now, because I'm looking at the front of that. So I'm looking at the bottom of that horse's foot. Let's say the bottom of the horse's foot is 0 degrees.
Right.
Is there a proper degree of where that hoof wall on the front should start? Like, let's say that right there would be, if you're watching the camera here, that would be like let's say like a 35-degree angle. Is there a proper degree as far as where that should be? I mean, you don't want a 90-degree angle on a horse's hoof. That wouldn't make any sense at all.
No, but you have some horses out there that's maybe closer to where they are. A 30-degree would be extremely low, and some of it depends on bone column and the coffin bone itself. Sometimes coffin bones are not, you have an ideal range of angles, but then if you've got, as far as like Doc Redden's work, over the years, he's found a pretty wide range of angles of coffin bones. He's found them like 60-plus degrees. He's found them down into the 30s. So if you got your say you got a 65-degree angle and you've got a 62-degree coffin bone in there, or versus a coffin bone that might be, let's say 42 degrees, that's going to make a big difference in what kind of a foot you got. It may be appropriate knowing what your coffin bone looks like. It may not. And coffin bones do not always match. There's an ideal range, preferred area you should be in, but reality is that you've got to work with what the horse gives you to work with.
Now, dealing with a horse's flare foot, what's the easiest, or what's the most extreme as far as how to fix it, and what's the easiest way to how to fix it, depending on what's going on with it?
First thing is take a look at the horse.
Okay.
There are horses that are not steady because of mechanical things going on. So you need to address where's the pressure coming from. And sometimes that's not always immediately taking the flare off. Sometimes that is looking at, if it's in a front end, you rarely have a front end that's doing odd things without odd things going to the back end. And some of it will manifest in the front end because of what they're doing with pressure. Because remember, they put most of their weight on the front end, and the worse your problem is in the back end, the more weight they put on the front end, more down pressure, more distorting.
Now, if you have a lawn ornament horse, it's just out there being fancy, being, free. And
right.
Is it bad, or is it okay to have a horse with a flare? As to, let's say, a dressage or a eventing horse or someone in that, of course, you want the feet to be perfect. But I'm just talking about your normal lawn pasture type horse. Is it okay if the horses are flared?
There are plenty of them out in fields that don't get touched. They have flares all over the place. When the flares get too long, they bust off. And, ideally, not necessarily a good idea to have one. Now, you take a horse that's been through some laminitis or something like that, you're going to have a lot of odd flaring going on because structurally, you've lost structural integrity of the hoof. And, that gets into, okay, as a foot collapsed, is the foot flat-footed at this point? Was it flat-footed before? And why have we lost structural integrity? So there's more going on than just the flare itself.
So the flare is curable?
Hopefully. Not always, no. And if you got a horse with a really strange bone column alignment, well, sometimes you got to work around that bone column alignment best you can.
So can't you just, I'm thinking flare, can't you just trim off the flare and just let the horse keep going? Or is that getting too much into the meat of the horse's foot?
How much depth do you have in the foot? Are you invading the sole plane? If you're taking the foot down so much the horse can't walk, we're creating a problem by doing it. A lot of times I will float that area up off the ground just to break contact, and the foot flexes some when it comes in and picks up load, so that you're not picking up your primary load on the flare first. And sometimes they will settle down from that. If you're dressing down flares on foot, a foot down to nothing that's already unstable, sometimes you can make the horse's hoof more unstable because you're thinning the wall down. And it's like you got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and I know it's in millimeters now, and you shave it down to a 1/4 inch and you expect it to be the same strength. That's not going to be.
So does flare happen like overnight, or is this a long-term progression as far as, I know it takes forever for the horse's hoof to grow down.
I'm going to say long-term progression.
And is the recovery to get the flare removed from the horse, is it the same progression, the opposite direction as far as time-wise?
Well, if it didn't get there overnight, it's not going to disappear overnight.
Well, I understand that.
Yes.
But I mean, let's say it took 2 years for my horse to get a flare. And because, just...
What happened through that 2 years?
Just the horse is out on the lawn. That's it.
Okay,
that's all he does.
What happened during that 2 years?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Okay.
My wife was.
Right. So has something gone on to create the instability in the hoof? Is it a movement problem? Has something changed in the movement pattern? Is the horse tracking straight, or did it used to track straight and now it does not? And then you have to get into the whys of that.
So you just take the wire all the way up the horse's body and figure out what's going on.
Yes.
I learned that from you. All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, something that we all learn, especially Mike, is the balance and what does it mean to Tony Gonzalez. And we've been reading from a book, Proper Balance, movement, proper balance movement, a diary of lameness. And if you look at this, we're going to read from this book right here. You all right, Mike?
I'm here.
Am I keeping you up?
You kept me up too late.
Take another shot of coffee over there.
It's the pickles.
And we're going to read another section from chapter 2 from this book. And Mike's going to see or talk about how this book has helped him and what he applies today. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Yes. It's those pickles.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Come around, class. The teacher's going to read now. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see all the shenanigans that goes here on in the studio. Mike's sticking his grubby little fingers down in the pickle jar to try to grab some pickles that I made for him.
It is a pickle.
Are you doing okay with those pickles? They're not too hot, are they?
No.
All right.
No, not at all.
Well, they were in the refrigerator.
That's why they were not hot.
Well, they call them refrigerator pickles, where you heat up the brine, you put it in the jar, and then you put it right in the refrigerator, and you let it sit there for about 48 hours, and boom, you got pickles.
Okay.
So that's what you got there. And over to my far right side, pickled, is Mike Stine.
That's right.
How are you?
I'm good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Shot of coffee? Need a shot? Are you good?
I'm here.
Yes. Okay.
I'm here. That's all that matters, right?
So we're going to talk right now, Chapter 2, the balance of a hoof. And what is the meaning of, what does it mean to Tony Gonzalez from his book, Proper Balance Movement, A Diary of Lameness. Now, here we go. Tony Gonzalez was one of Mike's many mentors, and explain shortly, or in a short term, what was Tony Gonzalez's influence on you?
Tony's influence was really starting to think outside the box, because, as he says early on, we're taught, look at the hoof, level up the hoof, level up the bottom of the hoof. It's balanced, right?
Yes.
And then later on, let's look at the flares. Let's look at the coronary band. And Tony really got into, let's look at the horse. There's something causing these imbalances, and it's coming from the horse, coming from movement patterns and mechanics. And, if he hits hard on one side and you got a lot of compression on one side, why is he hitting hard on one side? When I went to farrier school, and it's been a day or two, it's look at the bottom of the foot, look at the foot, dress your flares down. Flares always came back. But we were doing the horse right? Correct?
Correct.
We didn't have any effect on anything above the knee and above the hock, which is very untrue. And there again, everything above the knee and hock affects what we're doing, down to the rider, down to the saddle fit, down to whatever. You got a one-sided rider on top of a horse, you're going to fight that pattern, and what happens to hoof growth patterns impact wear patterns.
Okay, so we're going to read a small snippet out of Chapter 2, and this is Tony Gonzalez and what he says, the balance of a hoof, and then Mike's going to relay as far as how these messages that he's talked about, Tony Gonzalez, is related to what Mike Stine does here currently. So here we go, from the book. People often ask what balance means to me. There are 3 answers to this question. Balance means balancing of the horse's hoof. Also, balance means balancing of the natural horse's conformation. Finally, balance means balancing a horse to carry its rider's weight. Now, to balance the foot, all horses are taught to level the ground side of the hoof. Then, level the coronary band of the hoof in order to make the horse's level in the foot. Even as I try to perfect this technique, I could only obtain minimal results. Every shoeing of the same horse would be a repeat of what I've been doing previously. The balance and leveling was always temporarily. So what does he mean when he's talking about that?
Well, it's just what we're talking about. If you dress a flare down and you haven't gotten rid of the mechanics that are causing the flare, flare's back each time. And we dress it down and it's back, and we dress it down and it's back. And then Tony really helped me with understanding the diagonal pressures within the hoof and also the horse. And we always think diagonal in a horse. Well, that's yes and no. But typically, the diagonal feet, what's going on with a hind foot will be similar to what's going on with the diagonal front foot. And so you automatically think, let's go to that diagonal leg. Well, yes, true. But if he's dropping the hip on the other side and he's curving his body, that could have something to do with compression problems in that front leg. So you start looking for your weak points and what's going on with the horse. And some of it has to do with the, the pressure in the hoof. And I was always taught, if a foot should be flat to a shoe. Well, the problem is if you need some give somewhere in the hoof, you need to create an area, if you're shoeing the horse, for the foot to move up and down into the shoe, which means you need to float areas. So the way I trim a foot now is very different and is constantly changing from what I did when I went to shoeing school.
So in ideal, the textbooks on a horse's anatomy teach that joint alignment should appear as a straight line down the center of the leg. In reality, this information is still important. It is a significant factor in judging the balance of a hoof. Proper balance movement simply adds a few more areas to take in consideration. For example, consider the side-to-side balance of the hoof. It takes into the account the width of the hoof and often how it affects the weight-bearing surface of the horse. So that's basically what you were saying before.
Right. And, in an ideal world, you think you want the breakover straight over the center of the hoof. If everything was lined up perfectly, maybe so. But then as you're flexing the leg, you learn to pay attention to how that knee flexes. Because if the knee opens out real hard, that's the way the horse is going to want to break over. And
this is what you're telling me right now is all the stuff that you've learned and you're applying presently to the way you look at a horse's foot.
And... I will take this.
I was going to say, look at your notes if you need to look at your notes. That's all.
Notes are just, I guess. Okay. Just for the sake of, with flares. I was in a clinic one time and they were talking about getting these feet perfect. And, everybody's looking at the hoof. And there was some discussion going on, what to do. Oh, no, you got to follow our protocol. And I like, back up a minute, because this is some years after Tony. Pay attention to what that knee's doing. You got a horse that can't straighten his knee out, you got a toe flare. Some of those horses need the toe flare to stabilize the knee. In an ideal world, you don't want a toe flare, but you got to start paying attention to what the body's doing. Okay, so the toe flare was taken off on this particular horse. Horse couldn't stabilize itself on that leg. So ended up extending the shoe forward and building in to where the horse could stabilize itself. So basically put that 1/4 inch that was dressed off right back. But it was insisted to do that. But I know I've got a horse right now that I'm working on that he's an odd character. His joint alignment's not near where it should be. He's got a big blown up arthritic knee that won't straighten out. If you start putting the lower limb joint alignment where it should be, he can't stabilize that leg enough to walk on it. So we got to find a happy enough place that to make the knee happy enough because of the damage done to it versus, minimizing the damage from the joint angle being broken backwards.
Now, the horse that you're talking about, what's that horse's job and how did it get this way? Or we don't know yet.
Well, his job is to hang out and enjoy life. And there's a lot being done trying to help this guy out. He's a long story, and we can do a day just on him because he's an interesting character. And it's like I told the owner on this horse the first time I was there, and she said, and she had reminded me of that. Said, the first time you looked at him, you told me, said, they were asking what to do, and I said, this horse will teach us something. Because the odd ones, it's like Tony used to say, there's the rules, there's the exceptions to the rules, there's the exceptions to the exceptions, and then there's the exceptions to that. So that's where you're working. So the book that gives you all the rules of where a horse should be are great if a horse is following the rules. Horse can't read that book.
Never knew a horse to read.
Not too many. Mr. Ed, maybe.
I think he just talked more than anything. Now, a thing I wanted to point out, every time I ask you what the job of that horse is, in my mind, I'm thinking as an athlete, just any athlete of any skill level, You know, they pull a muscle here and they do something like that.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, when I ask you when you talk about I'm dealing with this kind of horse, I'm dealing with this kind of situation on a horse, I ask you what that horse's job is.
Right.
9 times out of 10, Mike, you say he's just out there to be happy and eat grass. Now, are you seeing that? Is that more common than a horse that gets looked at regularly? And, you know, like, for example, your cycle is about, what, 4-6 weeks when you shoot?
4 to 6 weeks on most of mine, yes.
So the horses that are out the pasture or out in the pasture, you know, being lawn ornaments and stuff, it seems like you're seeing more problems with those horses as to those athletic horses. Now, granted, athletic horses have their own issues as far as muscle pullment and you know, all the movement and stuff. But when I ask you all the time, you always say he's just out there to be fat and happy.
This horse we're talking about, his job is to relieve the mental stress of the owner.
Okay.
Keep the owner happy.
Well, that's what I meant. But what I'm saying is, it's not a show horse or a riding horse.
No, a lot of these were at one time.
Okay, so these are older athletes.
Older athletes, kind of like, you know.
Me and you.
Yeah, we used to pretend like we were athletes too. But, you know, we're trying to find a place to keep this guy as comfortable and happy as we can. And it's some of the rules that apply with competition horses. There's some similarities, but there are some major differences. And, you know, you've got to consider job of the horse, conditions of the horse, where the horse lives, what is the rider's work program, how the rider rides. And, you know, I've got some riders that have done rather well out there, very well.
Trisha Dingle is the one that does she's been on the show several times where she's taken these horses, these rehab horses, and and actually not placed in competitions, but has worked them back into not a professional competition level, but has given these horses a second life.
Right. And yes, and we've done pretty well with that. But then you got horses that are upper level competitive horses. And I've got riders that are very skilled at that level. And some of the problems I have with those horses, and you look at the workload they are under and how long some of those guys compete without injuries, and it leaves you scratching your head because lower level horses, to me, are always tougher to keep going. And fitness level of the horse. Now, my upper level horses are primarily 3-day eventers. So the fitness level on those horses has to be better than a dressage horse, you know. But on the other end, tendon ligament injuries and all that, and if you look at the workload they're doing in comparison, it's a lot less. But I'm also working with some very upper level riders who have a feel for a horse. They have their, you know, the balance, their control is way past what your average rider is going to be. And, you know, when I worked for Dr. Mansman, we were talking about, well, it's Rein Lameness. And I said something about one day in there about, well, it's rider lameness. He says, well, you're right, but you politically, you can't say that.
You want to offend the rider.
That's right. He says, we need them to write the paycheck.
What do they know? What does that guy know? He's just underneath my horse.
So that's where that is. And, you know, there's always, okay, if a horse is trotting at you, he's compressing one side, and he is rocking, and some of them will rock across the diagonal. Okay, why is he rocking? If his body is curved, why is it curved? Did he ever get straightened out of the womb?
Uh-oh.
And someone did not.
Airplane mode.
Airplane mode.
That's all right. The magic of editing.
And there you go. So that's you know, changed every time you throw somebody different on the horse. Where horses that are lesson horses that are having new riders, they're not going that hard, but it's tough keeping them up. It's tough keeping them square because everybody that's on their back bounces in a different direction.
So my question to you, Mike, is when are you coming out with your updated version of this book? Because this was written in what year? 1984, I believe.
Right.
So you've got to come up with your version, taking some of Tony Gonzalez's theories and what he's...
Yeah, that was probably being written when I first met Tony.
So there you go. I'm looking for Mike Stine's book to come out. And plus our book that we have together of silly terms that we call horse.
We create our own stuff.
We create our own stuff. All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, Mike's going to talk about a spider plate on a horse he's been working on. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Right.
You all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Amy, let me show you this. Amy is in New York. And while in New York, there is a bakery in her uncle's neighborhood.
That'll make you gain weight just looking at it, won't it?
That's what she's bringing me back from on the flight.
Nice.
She's flying back tonight. So
She wants you to be a well-rounded fella.
I am a well-rounded fella. If you can't see the picture, it's a bunch of from Bankert's Deli in Long Island, or bakery. She's bringing me 6 Boston cream donuts, and she's got herself looks like 6.
How can they be Boston cream donuts when they're from Long Island?
It's the cream. The cream itself is made.
The cream came from Boston.
Yeah.
There you go.
On the ship.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When they threw the tea over, they were like, going, "Do we want to throw these out?" And the guy tasted it and goes, "No.
Let's keep that.
Let's keep that. That's good stuff there."
The tea that they were sending over must not have been that good.
Yeah, it probably wasn't.
They probably still got tea flavored fish.
Yeah, they're all pickled. Ready?
Yes.
Case study of a horse named Sammy. Coffin bone infection. Ready?
Right.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Uh-oh, see? I didn't put mine. That's my fault.
It's you
That's
time. It's you. It's not me.
So we're our 2 fouls cancel each other out. So welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. And don't forget, you can follow Mike Stine over on Facebook on his new podcast page, which is Mike Stine Equine Dynamics. Make sure you like and subscribe to him over there. He's kind of moved all of his personal stuff over to the business side. That way he can get a lot more followers over there. And following us over there on my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I am good, Travis.
You saw the pictures of the donuts that my wife's bringing me back from New York?
I did. The ones that you say are from Boston, but they're not.
They're not. She's bringing me these Boston cream donuts that she's flying back tonight, so I'll get those tonight.
But they're from New York, not Boston.
Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Those northern people. Now, we're going to do a case study of a horse named Sammy, and we're talking about a coffin bone infection and the use of a spider plate. Now, this is a great time if you're not watching this on the YouTube channel. We have visuals here in the studio. I'm going to switch over to camera 3 so we can see it. And Mike, you've got a horse's hoof right here, and you also have this, almost looks like an old school CD with a smiley face on it.
It is a smiley face.
So tell us what we're talking about as far as the
application.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
So tell us about when you would use a spider plate and how that
when you have spider problems.
So that's the plate to put them on there.
That's off your spider senses.
Yes.
No, this is something that is easy enough to carry in your rig. It's a frog support.
Let's start this way. Why do they call it a spider plate?
Yeah, no, I've heard it called a couple other things besides spider plate.
What are the other names that someone out there might not know what
supports plate? When these things came out a long time ago, they kind of came out and then they kind of disappeared. And they've been relabeled a few times. But the first ones I ever saw were called spider plates.
Is that spider like a company name Spider, or that's just the name of the actual plate? You can say yes. You can say yes to either one. Doesn't matter.
Sure, we'll go with yes, maybe.
Okay.
And what this is you can put it under your shoe. You go to your bandsaw, cut it to fit the shoe. You have to drill it for your nail holes, or I drill it. I don't know anybody that can just drive it. You can punch it. You can take a Pritzl and punch it. This is an aluminum plate, so you got to be careful overheating it if you're doing a Pritzl punch. But it's a quick frog support, and you can actually take this to your anvil and push this up if you want a little more positive pressure. Now, if I've got a horse that I need some support and I need to float out the toe and I want a fast answer to it, I can cut this. And you got your Sharpie?
I do. There.
Okay.
Are you looking to write on it? Yeah.
I could cut this and have this on the shoe and have this floated off of the foot to unload the toe. If I had a quarter crack, I can come in here and take that out and have a space under the quarter crack. The other thing I do with these is typically I fill them in with an impression. We've got a picture of one on the foot that was the horse that had the infected coffin bone.
Yep. Let me switch cameras here, and you guys can see this as well. So here is the, give it a minute to load. There it is.
Okay. This horse has been wearing this for a day. That's a day old. Put the shoe on. If you notice, the horse is drilled and tapped, and I riveted the spider plate to the back of the shoe.
Right here?
Copper rivets. Yeah, they're through the spider plate, through the shoe, riveted to the shoe. Also, I used a dental impression material, and this comes in multiple ranges of firmness. There are some pour-in pads of different ranges of firmness. Up front, I think they went with a softer deal. Now, this horse, for some reason, it damaged the coffin bone, had some coffin bone infection, so it was debrided. There was a hole cut in the hoof, and in removing the amount of hoof they did, you have some problems. Okay, do we have stability? So they had opted to go with an egg bar and a spider plate. Now, for this horse to go back into full training, I got away from the egg bar because when that bar comes into the ground on the arena surface, it's like pulling a plow beside that foot, and I wanted to roll through, and I want a little glide on the ground. And at this point, the horse does not necessarily need the bar for support. Now, early on, while the horse is healing, I don't mind having an egg bar on a horse sometimes for certain reasons. When a horse goes to work, I don't think that an egg bar is necessarily a good working shoe. And for the horse to go back and train, and there was a huge difference in the weight of the shoe, because the one side there was a rim pad and a light shoe. Then you had this big heavy egg bar, the spider plate, and all the fill material.
That's like putting 3 or 4 ounces on the end of your arm and telling yourself to hold it up for 24 hours. It'll wear down on you.
Just on the one side.
Right.
Over time, working the horse, we're looking at uneven development up top in the shoulders, which is going to affect the way the back end travels. So I wanted to get them a little more even. And because of the foot that is, quote, the good foot taking pressure, I went ahead and did the same for it, because that foot during the healing time had been taking more mechanical stress, compressing the foot down. So that's why that was on there, and we're allowing the foot to grow down. And when we get enough structure to the foot, we can remove the spider plate, and we put this guy back to work. In fact, he's back to work now. Excuse me, that there was in the sand and everything else. The horse had been worked. They wanted to make sure the horse was happy with the type of fill I put in there, because when you're filling these, the softer the fill is more cushy. The softer the fill, the less support. The firmer fill gives you better support. Sometimes at certain stages, you need something a little softer. Sometimes, because of stabilizing the foot, you need something a little firmer. And, they put the horse to work, and we took him out on the hard top and everything else to make sure he was happy. And if he had not been happy, since I was there for a few days shoeing, we would have popped it and swapped fills if need be.
Now, when I look at that spider plate, let me see that spider plate.
Right.
This to me, and you can see I'm holding it up here on the camera, this to me just looks like a piece of round aluminum where someone has cut out,
right,
a little smiley face. And I guess
it makes me smile.
Yes. I guess my question is, this doesn't look like it's straight. You're the one with your knowledge and stuff is the one that's going to have to transform this flat piece of basically sheet metal into what you need to fit on your horse's foot. Now, I didn't realize that your horse's horseshoe goes in between the hoof and the shoe itself.
Right.
Okay. So, but I'm just looking at this like going, I could have made this in shop class in 7th grade.
Yes, you could have.
I mean, that's essentially what it is,
Well, see, we used to cut them out of aluminum. And there's so much stuff pre-made now, and for time and convenience. Now, I've got a piece of aluminum plate that's about 1 foot by 2 foot in the back of the truck. And sometimes I want to do a buttress support. and I don't necessarily want to use an egg bar shoe. So I can use that in there to support the buttress support, because you need something a little rigid, depending on how much down pressure you're dealing with. If it's a lot of down pressure, that may not be enough. Maybe you do some kind of weld in. Maybe you do, there's a lot of different ways you can go at it, and it's going to vary some with every horse. Also with the aluminum plate, if I've got to do a hospital plate where I want to drill tap the shoe and have a plate across it that we can remove, medicate, and put back on, well, there you go.
And the aluminum shoe is sturdy enough or rigid enough to withstand, I'm assuming, to withstand the weight of the horse without bending or anything.
This is more rigid than you would probably think. But, if it's not, then we go to something that will support it. Sometimes we want to use flexible frog supports. Sometimes you use like a heart bar, which would be very rigid. If you want a lot of positive pressure, maybe you would go to a welded-in heart bar or build a heart bar shoe, which the shoe itself is basically you take these connectors out and it's all one steel piece without these in there.
Aluminum piece.
Right. You remove this support and this support, and you just have the piece over the frog. And you can do that with this, but I don't think that by the time you remove
the two little trees on the side,
you may not have enough support to really do anything. If you've got a horse with a busted up heel, you can cut it back here and remove the heel off and come in here and set the horse and just completely float out that area and have some level of support with some impression material under there.
So how often do you personally use those right now? How many horses do you have with those on their feet?
Right now,
other than the one you just showed us.
Right now, that's it.
That's it? Okay. So this is not a common thing, but let's say
it's not something I'm going to use every day, but the other end is I try to stay pretty well ready to go. And if I had not had these in the truck, could I have taken the piece of 2 foot by 4 foot aluminum plate and cut that out? Yeah, I could cut it right there on the truck and make it. But the thing is the time it takes. And the art form, because there's a lot of people out there that are in your field that could or would not do that. Right. So, but I have a way I could do it and make it work and make the horse happy. There's several different things I could do, and you've seen the back of my truck. It's ready to do about anything. I know you got a whole grocery store in there. What I did on this plate is I set the shoe on top of it, marked out where my clips were, cut where my clips fit in on the bandsaw, then I riveted it to the shoe. I went back through the nail holes with a drip bit that was just big enough to ease through there, and just drilled all the way through, so I had completed nail holes. And then my bandsaw cut off the extra with the bandsaw, and then my belt sander cleaned it up, and then went on the horse, and I had my 2-part impression material we got in there, and got the horse happy, right? Right. All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show and let you get back to enjoying your horses. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I'm going to be fat with those donuts. Are you going to be happy? I'm going to be happy, too. There you go, as long as you're happy. If you're not happy, well, there's a problem. When Amy, before she left, I made a whole plate of lasagna, or a big dish of lasagna, pan of lasagna. And I said, she's like, what are you going to eat all week? I go, this. Cut me out a square. Have a square every day. Right. So that was my dinner. Actually, I made my dad a country fried with the chopped steak in the crock pot with the brown gravy and stuff. Yeah. I made him that yesterday. So what you doing for dinner tonight? I've got leftovers that. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah. Sometimes that's better on the next day anyway. Yeah. But my dad said, he's like, this is better than what your mom made. And probably grandmother. And I'm like, well, I don't know about grandmother, but she probably didn't have the ingredients that I have when she was making it as a kid, as he was growing up. Did you put your special pickle sauce in there? No, but the ingredients for the gravy called for French onion soup mix. Now, I know Grandma back in 1950 whatever did not have to go all the way to France to get it, right? That, or she had to physically make the French onion soup to make for the gravy, which now we're spoiled. We just get it in the can. And that's my Father's Day story. Oh, shit. A lot of stuff down here.
All right, you ready? Last segment.
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Don't forget, Mike Stine was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. Also, in 2017, he was the American Venting Championship farrier, and now is a licensed thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. And over to my far right-hand side with owners of all these titles is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm upright.
Yes. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video over on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. And I forgot, if you have any questions for Mike Stine, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says podcast or contacts. I forget what it says. Fill out that little form there. Ask us a question. We'll read it here on the air. And make sure you put a return address, physical mailing address, and we'll send you out some of our prize packs. And if you'd like Mike Stine to perform a clinic out at your locations, you can find that information there as well. And Mike will pencil you in as soon as he possibly can. Now, Mike, today, what did we learn? Talking terminology, the word flare, the outward distortion of a hoof, which may occur on any portion of the hoof wall.
The flare can be driven by bone column alignment. It can be driven by imbalances in the hoof. It can be driven by movement problems. So when you're dealing with a flare, you've got to go back down the chain of events and find out where the pressure started.
And a snippet from the Proper Balance Movement, a diary of lameness written by Tony Gonzalez, a mentor of Mike Stine. And here's a small little snippet that says, to most people, flares in the hoof are considered out of balance. Actually, they're an indication of the horse's balance problem on that particular side. Flares develop in order to help an animal balance its weight on its hooves. And that's just a small little snippet out of this book right here.
But what caused the balance problem on that side? Where'd it come from?
Right.
Impact? Was the impact driven from movement pattern? If the movement pattern caused the impact, is the horse rocking in a weird direction? If so, why? And when you start taking care of those things will clean up.
And also a case study of a horse named Sammy that had a coffin bone infection, and Mike treated it with a spider plate shoe, or help with a spider plate shoe.
I came in after the fact on that one. We got the horse back to work. The vet crew that worked on the horse did a good job of cleaning everything up. The farrier at the vet clinic presented with a spider plate, so we went in a similar fashion, removed the egg bar because the horse going into training, and this horse is back to work, and we want to keep happy, grow the foot down, and keep on rolling.
All right, guys, on that note, make sure you follow Mike Stine over on Facebook. Remember, he has switched over, and he's got a Equine Dynamics podcast Facebook page, and that's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Make sure you like and subscribe to him over there as well. And he posts a whole bunch of news articles and just educational information over there on that page as well. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day. Thank you, Travis, and I hope you have fun with those donuts.
Yeah, my Boston cream donuts.
Your Boston from New York donuts.
And my name is Travis, saying see you next week.
All of your work is done. Just close your eyes.
There you go.
And dream.
Thank you. We survived.
Yes.